Hey, what is going on, everybody? I know you're used to us on Wednesday night at 9:30, but tonight we have a special show tonight. It is rivalry week out there, those Dallas Cowboys and those Philadelphia Eagles, going back years and years in history here. But you already know my name is Paul Spencer from Out of the Box Network here. But listen, I have special guests in here. Marcus Thomas, former Eagle, Hall of Fame, EKU University, inducted in 2008. What better way to have a former Eagle player in here talking the X and O's of this rivalry week? Marcus, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining us, brother.
Thank you much. Thank you for having me, man. Always excited to talk football, especially during Dallas week. It gets real down in Philly.
Definitely. I spent 30 years down there, Marcus, and they booted me
Yeah.
out after 30 years. I had to move up closer to Pittsburgh, so I got the welts on my back still. I'm still trying to recoup from that. But, my saying is if you can live in Dallas for years being a Cowboy fan, I think you've been through hell already. So, but Marcus, let's talk about you a little bit, man. Where can they find you at, Marcus? I know all about you, but let my viewers and of course your viewers as well, let them know where they can find you and what you're about, Marcus.
Right now, every Thursday night, you can see on my banner in the
Mhm.
background over my left shoulder, Pro Fan Talk.
Okay.
I'm every Thursday at 7 p.m. I stream through A2D Radio. Those guys were nice enough to invite me on one time, like what I had to say, and then they gave me my own show. So I've been doing that for, I guess, almost a year now.
Okay.
So I'm every Thursday. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Marcus or at Coach underscore Marcus 06 and at Instagram at Coach Marcus 06. And I've just started my own YouTube channel, trying to
Okay.
do more content because it seems like Facebook gets a little weird sometimes.
Definitely.
So, just try to do something different, man, and just add, because I played the game, trying to add a little bit more perspective that goes a little bit further than the normal fandom you
Mhm.
see on social media, and how the media heads go at it, because a lot of times they got it wrong too.
I agree with you. That's what better way to have you on here. A lot of people it's that word hate, out there. But listen, when you've been on the field, I respect your aspect of the game and your perspective of the game. You've been there, done that. And just like you said with the media, sometimes they float it to a different way where they want to make you believe what they're saying, even though sometimes it's not true. But Marcus, I mean, let's talk about you real quick, being that in that aspect there. I know you went to EK University down there. Man, I was looking at your stats, Marcus. Incredible, incredible.
Thank you.
I'm serious. I mean, I played high school football. I coached Pop Warner up here, and I tell you, like, I wanted to show my kids some of your moves out there, because to me, I mean, you look like a little Herschel Walker out there back in the day, man.
I used to get teased that, because they used to say, when I was in high school, they used to say I resemble Herschel Walker. But it was
Hmm.
funny. 93 was my rookie year
Hmm.
with the Eagles. Herschel was on the team,
Hmm. Exactly.
and but get this, I used to get Herschel Walker, Seth Joyner. One time, Mike Quick walked into the locker room and thought I was Seth's little brother.
Really.
And then I remember I was at a Sixers game, and somebody
Mhm.
thought I was Charles Barkley.
You,
So
you know what? There is a little resemblance there, Marcus.
yeah, but Charles Barkley is what, 6'5", six
Yeah, the,
six.
the round mound and
I,
rebound. It's like a
I'm
totally
I'm
different version
five ten
here.
and a half, man. But
I hear you.
yeah, man, I had an opportunity to play ball down in
Hmm.
Eastern Kentucky for Roy Kidd, legendary Roy Kidd.
Hmm.
Back then it was called 1AA,
Hmm.
not championship football subdivision, all of that. It's 1AA,
Right.
you know. So I had a chance to do some things, play with a lot of great players. I played with Tim Lester,
Hmm.
God rest his soul, he passed away last year. Played with Jesse Small, who played for the Eagles.
Hmm.
John Jackson, who had a lot of good years in Pittsburgh, was there. I think he was gone like 3 or 4 years before I got there.
Gotcha.
Myron Guyton, Super Bowl winner with the Giants. He was my captain my freshman year.
Wow.
Leon Brown, Mike Cador. Jason Dunn
Hmm.
played in Philly and with the Chiefs. So I played with a lot of good players. We got a good lineage down there, man.
Hmm. Well, one stat that jumped out at me: 5,149 yards in your career.
Yeah,
Like,
it could have been more, but I got hurt.
what happened there? What was it? What kind of
I
injury was
got
that?
I believe it was in my junior year.
Hmm.
I got a real bad bone bruise in my
Okay.
shoulder, and I
Gotcha.
think I missed like three weeks. But if I'd have been able to stay healthy my junior year, I probably would have had over 6,000 yards easy, because I was averaging.
Your average
Uh,
was 6.57.
Dude, I am not afraid. I am not a braggart, but I will tell anybody I could tote the rock. And
Hey,
like,
listen, two-time offensive player of the division. I mean, that goes a
mhm.
long way. And that you're well spoken for your yardage and your yards per run. So I mean, it was well deserved there, definitely.
Even though he was before my time,
Hmm.
the person that inspired me to be a running back was Gale Sayers. That's why I wore number 40.
Wow, wow, okay.
When I was in high school,
Hmm.
now we going way back because when we was in high school, they still had the reel to reel. And one day our coach showed us the NFL films where Gale Sayers was like, all I need is 18 inches and I'll do the rest. And I saw
Wow,
that the next
wow,
I was a nose guard my freshman year in high school. And
wow.
then it was a big deal because you had to go the athletic director was the head coach. His name
Hmm.
was Pat Mancuso. Great guy, great man. So it was a big deal because you had to go in his office, tell him what you wanted to do because
Oh, wow.
as a freshman going to sophomore, you practice with the varsity. So he
Okay.
would talk to every player, and that was a big deal. And I was like, I want to play running back. And he
Hmm.
looked at me like, really? I was like, yeah, I want to be a running back. So they moved me. I didn't have I was a late bloomer, dude.
Hmm.
I was a late bloomer. I didn't even have 1,000 yards my senior year, but
Wow.
my high school football team was ranked 12th in the country,
Hmm.
and we ended up winning the state title.
Okay.
Almost went undefeated.
Hmm.
We slipped up one week. We dropped out of the rankings, but when we won the state title in 1987, we ended up coming back. They ended up bringing us back in at like 17 or something like that at the end of the year. So we were getting national attention. But
Okay.
I was not that dude. I was fast, and I was a hard runner, but I did not have any moves whatsoever.
Hmm.
And then when we went to the state title, the week after that state title, back then the rules were scouts couldn't talk to you until your season was over. So
Wow.
our season went long because
Wow.
we went all the way to the title. Then the week after we won the title,
Hmm.
I got mono and I was out of school for a week. So I missed all of the scouts coming in.
Wow.
So
So how sort of it's weird how things have changed nowadays. You can get recruited in
yeah,
sixth grade to a scholarship,
yeah.
but man, Marcus, I mean, you had a hell of a career. I mean, there was one thing I was reading. Were you an All American in your senior year?
Yes. I was a
Wow.
Kodak All American, I think.
Wow, wow. What was that like? I mean, that's very prestigious. I mean, you look at all the awards out there, and just to be named on, an All-American, first team, second team, or just honors out there. I mean, what was the feeling like that when you were named something like that?
Um, it was I thought it was just like another big accomplishment
Hmm.
because it seemed like, at least it seemed to me at that time, the way the landscape was back then. Because remember, no social media, nothing
Exactly.
like ESPN was still a new thing.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So to be able to get any type of national recognition was a huge for me. For all intent and purposes, Eastern Kentucky was a small school.
Right, right.
Um, there weren't too many one AA schools that were getting a lot of attention. We
Hmm.
were getting a lot of attention because Roy Kidd had been there forever.
Hmm.
A couple of years before I got there, we went down to Louisville and we beat Howard Schnellenberger down
Hmm.
in Louisville. So we got some attention like that. They used to bring up some stuff because I remember, every kid coming out of high school wants to go to a D1 school.
Sure.
Um, University of Kentucky wanted me to walk on. They didn't want to offer me a
Mm.
scholarship.
Wow.
And then I wasn't even supposed to go to Eastern Kentucky. I was going to either
Really?
go. I was either going to go to. I visited Toledo.
Hmm.
I didn't like Toledo because they were not interested in what I wanted to study at all. I went to
Okay.
Indiana State.
Was
Um,
Sycamore, huh?
yeah,
Hmm.
and I went to. I think it was the third school that I went to, and then I ended up at Eastern.
Hmm.
And the only reason I went to Eastern was because we had such a strong alumni at our high school. Summertime, all the guys that were in college would come home and they would come to the high school to work out because we had a pretty good
Oh, okay.
weight room. So I'm seeing my one buddy in there. His name is Mark Mitchell. He was an offensive tackle.
Hmm.
And he said, literally, you signed with anybody yet? I'm like, nah. He's like, I got to go back down to school. Why don't you come down and talk to Coach Kidd? So I was like, okay. So I told my parents, I rode down there with him. My parents didn't even come. I rode
Mm.
down there with him, had a chance to check out the facility. They had what I wanted to study because I'm a mechanical design degree.
Hmm.
Um, and Coach Kidd told me, he said, we didn't recruit you because we didn't think that we could get you. He said,
Wow.
but hey, if you want to, we'd love to have you. And he offered me a scholarship on the spot. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, so this is how this happens.
Right.
So I called my parents and I was like, they're offering me a full scholarship. And that's how I ended up at Eastern Kentucky.
I think one of your parents probably said you have the pen ready to go. Sign that thing right away, correct?
Yeah, yeah. But even going down there, I was I'm a kid from Cincinnati,
Hmm.
right? Most of the athletes that were at Eastern Kentucky at that time, you were either from Kentucky,
Hmm.
Florida, or Georgia.
Hmm.
And the running back stable was we had this guy named Elroy Harris, played a couple years in Seattle. We had Tim Lester.
Hmm.
There was another kid. We had a couple more guys I can't remember, but Elroy Harris was everywhere.
Hmm.
He had set all of the records. Tim Lester was next in line. Elroy Harris took off his junior year because he didn't go to class. So, but he ended up getting drafted by the Seahawks.
Right.
Tim Lester steps in. I'm his backup. I think it was the second or third game he tears his knee.
Mm.
I get in the game, and I never stepped off the field after that.
There you go. There you
And
go.
every record that Elroy Harris set, I broke.
Man, that's congratulations right there. Wow, that's a hell of a career right there. I mean, I looked at your stats and I was just, like I said, the first thing I said to you, I was like, wow, he looks like a little Herschel Walker out there when I first seen you. Especially in your college at EKU, that picture
Yeah,
just looks like him, honestly. But Marcus, real quick, I mean, I was going to make a joke about it, but now like that could be a recruiting violation now when the players came down and talked to you, moving you
yeah.
back up. But I mean, that could be an asterisk on there. But it's past the past. We don't care about that. But let me ask you real quick before we get into what everybody came to talk about the Eagles Cowboys game here. What do you feel about the players now with the LIV program where they're getting paid for now for outside social media, outside name presence, the likability image? That
Yeah, the
I mean,
NILs, yeah.
yes, exactly. I mean, Bryce Young before he even threw a ball, $1.4 million before he even set foot at Alabama. Being a former player, being a former college player, a pro player, what versus now back then now today's what do you feel about that before we get into the bread and butter here?
Honestly, my personal opinion is it's about time. The
Okay.
caveat is if you're going to do that, you got to provide the young kids with some type of financial structure,
Hmm.
or uh, just like they would make us take mandatory classes. One of your mandatory classes needs to be business and with a
Hmm.
financial advisor.
Oh, I like
If
that. I
you're
like
gonna
that.
if you're gonna give them that type of money,
Yes.
provide them with a service that teaches them how to use it. Because
Mm.
um, the first time I was mentioning Elroy Harris.
Hmm.
He was big man on campus when I was a true freshman. You walk into the bookstore, number 34 jerseys everywhere. So
Mm.
you can't discredit how much money these athletes generate.
Right.
You just can't do it. And I'm at a little small school. You can just imagine
Hmm.
Florida State,
Mm.
Miami, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Alabama, Georgia, all of those schools. When Herschel Walker was at Georgia,
Hmm.
everybody was wearing his number. How much money did he generate? But
Right.
they'll kick you out of school because the coach bought you a pizza. That's BS. That's
I agree.
BS.
Honestly,
So
Michael,
it was
I'm
one
sorry. Go ahead,
sided.
you finish. Yeah.
I was gonna say
I
it was one sided. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, back then, I honestly, I'm a big more college fan than I'm actually a pro fan. I love college football. Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I don't leave the house. And to me, I've always been a firm believer. Like, I'll be opposite with you, but now it's changed. Before I used to think like, wow, these kids are getting an education that some of these kids can't get. They're getting this 4-year ride where they don't have to pay a thing. All they have to do is God given talent. They put it on the field once a week is all they have. But then I look at it, and I'm like, wow, how much money are these colleges generating? Look at Notre Dame; they have their own network. You look at
exactly.
Alabama, the SEC, how dominant they are, and how much money are they bringing in? These kids aren't making a penny. Just like you said, you get slapped on the wrist more than that for a coach buying you a pizza, but your name recognition draws the college $50 million a year. Nothing. I've always thought it the wrong way, but now I look at it, and that's why I love having you on the show, being a player, and I hear aspects of everything out there. That definitely
Yeah.
brought something to my eyes. Definitely. Mhm.
I think it flipped, in my opinion. The really big flip was when they started the video games, and they came out with the
Yes.
NCAA
Yes.
video games. I'm like,
Yes.
you know who that is
Yeah,
in
you
the
had the
game.
you had the number, and if you wanted to put their name in there, you had to, look at the
Yeah,
roster, put their name in, and that wasn't right because you're
and
using his attributes for the game. Like
exactly.
you have Vince Young out there who can run at 99 speed. Well,
Yep,
that's Vince Young there, so let's
no,
put
it
his name
is.
in there. Exactly. Like,
And the other thing with that was, do you remember Jeremy Bloom?
yes,
He was a kick returner
hmm
for the University of Colorado. He was
hmm
also an Olympic mogul skier,
yes,
and they took his scholarship because he was raising money to go to the Olympics. And I was like, you know
exactly,
what,
exactly,
y'all are POSs, man. I don't want to
Ex-
hear from y'all. The NCAA was basically a new age mafia. Couldn't nobody tell them different, and that we were the only sport that would happen with,
mhm.
And it's like, stop it, stop it.
Exactly.
This,
Now it's hard. It's so bad now. I mean, the players on the field don't want to put it on the practice field. I mean, you go to spring ball, you're going in February to play ball, basically. Sometimes, and you got to
yep,
keep in shape all year long. It's all for the colleges out there getting their money. I mean, Notre Dame's $1 billion business just with Notre Dame Saturday, and the players aren't getting
exactly,
anything. It's just so bad
nothing,
out there. Yep, you got to remember where you came from, and pay it forward to the players itself. But Marcus, before we
exactly.
get into the game here, I got a couple comments here. Dave
Sure.
Yarn, he's part of my Cowboy show as well. He has a little activity he has to do tonight. But he says, Marcus, did you ever get a call from the Bengals? Did they ever give you a call, being a hometown boy?
No. Two of my best friends though.
hmm
Ron Carpenter played for the Rams, won a Super Bowl ring with the Rams with the
hmm
greatest show on turf. He's part of that team.
Wow.
And my
Oh.
other good friend, Alan DeGraffenreid. Reed.
hmm
Alan DeGraffenreid Reed in high school was our kicker. He was a soccer star and a track star.
Wow.
He was
Now,
our
what
kicker.
position did he play? What position did he play in the NFL?
Wait a minute, check this
This is
out.
the kick. Yeah, exactly. Here it comes.
He was a kicker, but he walked on at Ohio State
Wow.
because he was a track guy. Allen was about 6'2.5", 6'3", could run a 4.3 because he had track speed. He
hmm
won a state championship in the mile relay as a freshman in high school.
Mm.
So he walks on to O State. Of course, he gets on the program. They bulk him up. Next thing you know, D Graf is 6'3", 215, running a 4.3. So
Wow.
he ended up being on the Bengals practice squad, the Chiefs practice squad. Oh, he was our active roster with the Chiefs, I believe,
Mhm.
and he was also with Green Bay.
Mm.
So we were the three guys from my high school class that all made it to the pros.
Wow. Wow. That tells you that anything can change, over a summer or whatever. If your heart heads
Yeah,
into it or your mentality's there, you can do anything out there. That's insane.
yeah. Best I
Rob,
got to play. I was gonna say best I got to playing for
mhm,
the Bengals was I made it. My goal initially was to make it to the third preseason game, which was in Cincinnati.
there you go.
So
Yeah, there's Rob Hefner. He does our Vegas show out there. Marcus, he talks about that.
yeah,
He's a diehard Eagles fan. He's lived in near Philadelphia for all of his
go
life. But
Birds.
I can't say that. But since in honor of you, fly Eagles, fly. I'll also go ahead and say that.
There you go.
It's just a privilege to have you on. We had Sean Young on Wednesday night.
Sean's my dude, man. I
He
love
is.
Sean.
I mean, he had high words for you when I told him you were coming on. He's very humble, and his
Yeah,
thing
man.
was like, a lot of Cowboy fans. His thing was to me, don't hate the fans, hate the team. And
Right.
that meant a lot to me because he was like talking to you guys, like you don't mention the 5 Super Bowls, you don't mention this, but to me, I try to keep it real because 26 years, Marcus, has been a long time, man. 26
It's a
years, and
long time.
to me, I can still bleed that blue, and my room is all Cowboys pretty much here, and if I can still bleed that, that passion for my team, then I'm doing something right. No matter what the record is every year, but let's get into it. I mean,
Let's do it.
here it is: Cowboys versus Eagles.
Yes, sir.
Where do you want to start? I mean, both finally, last year the NFC least as people call it, but now the beast is back, 5-1 versus 4-1. Both teams are relevant. Both teams seem to be legit. I want to say one team seems to be legit, and I don't want to say which one it is, Marcus, but one could be a fraud out there. We don't know. I mean, I keep it real. I try to,
I
but
don't know.
where do
Keep
you
it
want to
100.
start with? What do you want to see? What do you want to start with this one? I mean, we'll talk about the X and O's, but where do you want to start at?
Uh,
I'll let you form the conversation.
you know what? You can start with the elephant in the room, man. What are we gonna do with Micah Parsons?
Okay, okay,
You know what I mean? So
okay.
that's been all the talk this week. Him and Demarcus Lawrence, um, they seem to be the bookends, and they are the straws that are stirring the drink, so to speak, down in Dallas, man.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, your,
Yeah.
your 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 defense is keeping that team afloat right now, because even though Cooper Rush is playing smart,
Mhm.
extremely smart, not really a lot of points on the board,
Mhm.
and the defense is keeping you guys in games. And Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence have been hellacious.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. We'll get into, that comment that you made there about, Cooper Rush. I said to Sean Young when we talked about it, I said, you look back in the day where Cooper Rush is managing the game, eliminating
Mhm.
turnovers, playing small ball, basically take what the defense gives you. But there was one name that I mentioned, Trent Dilfer. This defense
Absolutely.
is exactly what Trent Dilfer had with the Ravens back then. Exactly. All he has to do is manage the game. But regarding Parsons and Lawrence, let me answer this real quick, Sean, Marcus. A lot of people say that Marcus Lawrence has lost a step. What do you feel about that?
Uh, I guess you could. That's a fair criticism.
Hmm.
Not really a criticism. It is what it is.
Hmm.
Every year you get a year older. Um, but so what? He's balling now.
Hmm.
So if that's what losing a step gets you, so be it. A lot of times, my rookie year, you got to remember, my rookie year was '93. So I played with Seth Joyner, Clyde Simmons, Byron Evans, Eric Allen, Wes Hopkins. I
Hmm.
played with some greats, the
Right.
Fridge, um, and all of those guys weren't young players. But when you become an older player, you also become a wiser player, a smarter player.
Right.
So you guys that study the game and know how to play the game
Hmm.
know how to use that balance to their advantage. So you can say he's lost a step if you want to, but when I watch the tape, he's
Yeah.
putting pressure on the quarterback, and if he's not getting pressure, a lot of times, one thing I like
Hmm.
to say is sometimes you don't have to make the play to make the play.
Right. Right. Right.
If he's initiating a double team, that means somebody else is free. Somebody else is eating off of what he's doing. So
Agreed.
if that's what losing the step is, okay. But he's balling this year, so what does that matter?
I agree. I mean, a lot of times I tell people, they say he's lost a step. If that's just like you said, if that's what you want to say, but 3 sacks in 5 games is not, not bad at all. And
Right.
if you're riding you're riding on the same side, which they do put Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence on the same time a lot. Hey, listen, you got one job, get to the quarterback. If you don't get it, my man Parsons will get it. If DeMarcus Lawrence is getting a chip out there and he gets double teamed, well, Parsons can run a stunt or a twist to get the quarterback, which I love because they're playing fundamental defense right there. To me, it's 11 hats on the ball with this Cowboy defense. I mean, they bought into Dan Quinn's system. They play under his philosophy. I mean, it's not the Legion of Boom. Of course, we're not going to even go to that level, but they're playing for their coach and they bought into the mentality of this defense, number one.
Mhm. They gotta keep doing what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's working.
Yep.
Um, I saw an interesting thing this week via my social media page. They were asking, did we have buyer's remorse drafting Devontae Smith instead of Micah Parsons?
Yeah. What do you think about that? I mean,
Well, my response is that's the wrong question to ask. The
mm-hmm.
question to ask is if we would have drafted Micah Parsons, would
Mm.
Jonathan Gannon be using him like he's being used
Wow.
in Dallas?
Wow.
Absolutely not. There's
Wow.
no way. What people like to do is they want to take the production they see now and apply it to our situation, and that doesn't work. Because I know good and daggone well, Jonathan Gannon would be letting Micah Parsons go every which way in his defense.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now he should be moving Hassan Reddick around there just like that, but he's not. Little bit different skill set because Hassan Reddick is good, but he's not quite as fast as Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's that fast. Micah Parsons is 4'3".
Mm-hmm.
It's so you've got a specific advantage that not too many people have on defense. So he's being used to the best of his ability. And what I see is, and this is throughout the NFL, you got coaches that are fitting players to their scheme instead of molding their scheme around the talent you have. And I don't care if you coach in Little League all the way up to the highest level in NFL. You have to get with the players that you have. You got to know your personnel. You can't make your personnel conform to what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
When I used to coach, I used to coach little kids. And I remember I had the biggest, strongest, fastest kid on the team. But he was a sweet kid. So I couldn't tell him, I need you to go take his head off. He's not the one to do that. So you got to know the personnel and what they can and can't do. And when you have somebody like Jimmy Johnson, when you have somebody like Parcells, even Belichick to a certain degree, they're not afraid to say, I'm sorry, we got to get rid of you because you're not fitting what we need right now. We need this type of player. And And at least Quinn on the defensive side of the ball is making that happen. He's using what he's got to
Yes.
affect us.
That's the thing I completely agree with. A lot of people look at it, I even thought about it myself, and you put a great aspect on it, a great, analogy on that, where if they would have took Parsons, would Gannon use him in the correct situation? No, I don't think they would have, because it's more of a coach's scheme around the players. I don't think it would have been in your benefit to use that. I don't think he would have been the Micah Parsons that we're seeing with the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
Under this Dan Quinn system, he's putting him where he excels more. He know he's off the ball playing, defensive end. He can play that outside linebacker. He can cover in coverage. And I think that's where Dan Quinn has really excelled, having Parsons out there under this scheme, playing around, let's put it around Parsons, 10 plus 1, out there with him. I think that's a benefit to him as well. But real quick, we'll get into a couple questions. Dave Yarnell asked me, you actually, Marcus, did you ever play for Rich Kotite?
Yes.
How was that? Little
It,
stutter there.
Nah, Kotite was cool, man. Kotite was a player's coach.
Okay.
So Kotite was one of those guys like, all right, what do you need to do?
Okay.
I mean, we had Randall, so he wasn't going to mess with what Randall was doing. I was I was in the midst of that last piece of that gangrene defense. So Bud Carson was still there, and the defense ran the squad. The defense were the leaders: Seth and Byron and Clyde and EA and Andre Waters.
I missed those Eric Allen days. Oh
yeah. Oh, EA was something special, man. But they were the leaders of the team. They were the leaders of the team. You had Randall and you had Herschel.
Right.
But in my opinion, Seth was the de facto leader he was the captain of that team, period. Randall was Randall, so he got all of it. He was on, Sports Illustrated and all that kind of stuff. But hands down, Seth was the leader of that team.
Okay. I agree with that. We'll go into two more questions before we get back into there. Rob Hefter says, who is your favorite NFL coach, either you played for, or let's put it this way, I'll take it to another level, one that you would have loved to have played for?
One who I would have loved to have played for? I wish I could have been somewhere like any Super Bowl winning coach, man, like a Parcells or a Jimmy Johnson. Guys that knew what it took. And at least could be honest with you and says, hey, if you ain't got it, we can't keep you, but here's what you need to work on. So somebody that could keep it real with you and let you know, all right, we're gonna keep you, or we got to let you go, but this is what you need to do. Real coaches, because a lot of times in this social media and everything has to be quick era that we're in, nobody wants to develop. They don't want to develop players. Everybody's looking for the next Josh Herbert.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Not even Josh Allen. Herbert. What's Herbert's first name?
Justin.
Justin Herbert. He's the unicorn right now because he came into the league balling. Burrow came into the league balling.
Right.
And that does not happen 98% of the time. And back to what I was saying earlier about Troy Aikman. Nobody wants a quarterback to come in and take their lumps. You got to take your lumps. That's why I'm such a fan of Jalen Hurts right now, because even in Philadelphia, we were divided about Jalen Hurts. He's not the guy, noodle arm, heard all of that stuff. And I'm like, y'all must not understand how this works. I was like, the kid has had a different offensive system every year since college.
Yes.
And I'm like, people are discounting how difficult it is to learn an NFL offense. He finally has the same scheme a second consecutive year. So he's got the answers to the test. So people discounted that. And I give him credit. He went to the lab in the offseason and went to work, and he understood the assignment.
Yeah,
he knew
I agree.
Exactly what to work on. His footwork is miles better. His anticipation is better, and his on-time deliveries are better. And you can see the work that he put in.
Oh, I agree. Just like you said, I mean, I'm a big college fan, and watching him play at Alabama, going through the years that he had, the greatest. I mean, he was a great mobile quarterback, great arm, even at the college level. Then, get you all the way there. Then you have one bad game, and Tua comes in, takes his spot, rides you to the SEC championship. Tua goes out. Jalen is sitting there, looking at the clipboard, with the pom poms. He comes in and wins that game.
Yeah.
You get benched, and well, okay, well, we're going to go with Tua. Well, you know what? I'll go to Oklahoma. New system, Lincoln Riley, totally different than Alabama's coaching scheme. Totally different offense, night and day. Finished
Yep.
second in the Heisman. This kid is a heart. He has it. He has the driven ability to do what he wants to do. I've always been a Hurts fan. When they drafted him in the second round, I told my Cowboy friends, I was like, this is a bad thing here. They get
Yeah.
him, the future could be set. I mean, he's going to overtake Wentz at this time. I'm telling you now, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I love Hurts. I definitely love Hurts, definitely. But
He
let's get into
was.
Hurts now.
But
Let's talk. Go ahead, Marcus.
no, I was going to say after the Tampa Bay game,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody heard the audio when the coach said on the sideline he can't read and all, and my thing was like, this is the perfect scenario where intangibles
Mm-hmm.
come into play, because if they don't like a quarterback, they start talking about intangibles. He's a
Mm-hmm.
great leader, first in, last out of the locker room. He watches a lot of tape. He's a hard worker.
Right.
They start throwing all of those adjectives around like that's a good thing. But they're saying that because they're saying, well, I don't like him as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a situation where you say he's a coach's kid.
Yeah.
So he's been through this before. And I know he heard that audio.
Oh,
and
of
I
course.
know he's got the type of temperament that says, okay, then it's up to me to prove you wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
he understands that they were right in what they said, and he
Mm-hmm.
worked on it. And
Yep.
now you're seeing the benefit because he's killing everybody from the pocket.
Exactly. And real quick, Daniel Kahn, he does actually our Giants show just hour prior to us here. He was talking about Daniel Jones that would different offensive coordinator every year. He's talking about Jalen Hurts. He's better off that he went to OU. But there was just going to the disadvantage of a lot of people, the media out there saying about Jalen Hurts. Going to OU is quarterback university. You have Kyler Murray. You have Sam Bradford. You have what was his name? Baker Mayfield. All
Baker
Heisman
Mayfield.
Trophy winners. That couldn't really play in the NFL. Their scheme is different. Anybody can play quarterback under Lincoln Riley at OU. Well, Hurts is a different animal. Hurts is a different animal out there. Number one, he has the passion and the mindset to get in the game film. Get in there in the locker room, learn everything, learn the schemes of every team out there. And the one thing I tell a lot of people last year is when the Eagles looked bad in the beginning of the season under Hurts, under the helm, but they didn't have an identity, Marcus. They didn't have an identity what Hurts was at that point. When they found out they could run the ball, then the identity came to it and said, okay, well, we don't need Hurts to beat us with his arm here. We know what he can do, but that'll come. That'll come. We have the whole offseason. And that identity to me in the back half, I even told a lot of Cowboys fans, I'm like, with Mike Orban saying this could be a dynasty. I hate to say it, but honestly, you guys have the QB of the future. You have the offense, the defense, and you guys are set with 2 draft picks next year in the first round to, get the players, a plug and play player, as you would say. The pieces there, go out and get that one piece just to plug it and play it, even if you need it. I mean, you got Nakobe Dean. He's not even getting time right now. A first round draft pick that should have went top 10. Should have went top 10. You got him.
Yeah.
But let's talk about a little bit more. I know we talked about Parsons. How do you stop Parsons if you're with the Eagles? You'll play Eagles. I'll play Cowboys. How do you stop Micah Parsons and his defense?
Go right at him.
I like that.
Because the one thing I've seen and watching film, he's aggressive, and sometimes him also along with Lawrence, sometimes they're uber aggressive.
Yes.
He's got tells like it. I know when he's on that edge left to right, he puts that hand on his knee, he's coming.
I noticed that. Yes.
But when he's got his hands to his side, he's still coming.
He's dropping a little bit.
He might drop or he might twist. So just things like that. But you attack him, you go right at him, kick him out, pull a guard, run that way, and just smash him and be physical with him. You're not going to outspeed him. You can't do that. So you know what? You treat him just like any regular end. I don't care how fast he is. You can't beat physics. So if I saw what DeMarcus Lawrence said about they're going to play the best defense they face, and I was like, excuse me, have you ever heard of Lane Johnson having given up a sack since 2020? So you're going to face the best offensive line you've ever faced this year because Tampa Bay didn't cut it, Bengals didn't cut it, New York didn't cut it, Washington didn't cut it, and the Rams didn't cut it.
Right.
So we're the best that you have faced. So that goes both ways. But back to Parsons, I think you go right at him. You have to recognize where he is, and based on your film study, know or at least have a good idea of what he plans to do, And
Right.
the most important thing in my mind, you better have your hot routes together. Our hot routes have been garbage. They've been garbage. We better have our hot routes together for when he comes. Because if he's coming, this somebody's going to be free or somebody's going to be open. Well, it's kind of hard to say that because you play that 4-2 nickel or that 5-1 stack, however you want to look at it. But we got some matchup advantages if we win the chess game.
Yes, you do.
So, but as far as Micah Parsons, go right at him.
I agree with that. I mean, I love how you said that because I coach Pop Warner up here, and I always tell my guys, my center, if they're going to run an all-out blitz on you, or especially your DNs out there, if they're down in a 3 technique or a 4 technique, that tells you a lot. I tell my running backs even to look at that. I had a running back back there, always standing upright, and when he ran the ball on a blast, he always had his hand on his knee. I was like, don't do that. You can clearly see what your tendencies are in a way, I guess. But right. I like how you said to run at Parsons because just like you said, Lawrence does overcompensate on a lot of things. And here's the one thing that I really hope. I hope they stay true to defending the edges out here because that's the one thing. Lawrence does actually, especially with Lane. Lane's going to try to push him outside. And that's where you get Parsons, even Parsons out there with Lawrence, either one. You get him wide, that opening lane out there because you got to remember if Parsons comes in, Van Der Esch is the only one sitting back there like a duck. And he's not going to catch anybody out there. That is an advantage. I love how you say go at Parsons because that's what I do. Like when I coach, I always go after their best defensive player to make him beat you because he's going to be the key factor. If he's going to put all the effort out there, if the other team schemes to actually stunt or twist, then they'll be okay. But the scheme, the technique, everything has to be there in your game plan, of course.
Right. And if we have to get the formations again back to that chess match. We can get some formations that take advantage of that because the way the way that defensive set is, the right formation puts Van Der Esch on Miles Sanders or Dallas Goedert.
Exactly.
Both of those favor us.
Exactly.
Because, Van Der Esch ain't going to cover nobody.
Exactly.
He'll come up and make a tackle, but
that's what I said. Yep, he can only play inside the gaps, and that's pretty much it. You go east and west on the coverage. He's a sitting duck. I even said it. I was like, look, you got Miles Sanders, you got Goddard, and if you want to bring Gainwell out of the backfield once in a while, that's a clear. If he runs a wheel route, there's no way. Not even corners can stick him, or safety can stick Gainwell. But how do you expose the Dallas Cowboy defense, Marcus? How do you expose? What kind of set do you run?
I don't think any particular set. You just gotta spread it out and get your matchups right.
True.
You guys don't have a cornerback or defensive back that I worry about.
I agree.
Diggs is your best player in the secondary, but he's prone to go for the
double move.
Attack too much, and we can get him with the double move. And plus, we got AJ Brown back there who catches everything.
Yeah.
He's not a shifty type guy. You're just not going to stop him because he's like, people don't understand how big and strong he is.
Yeah.
He's our version of DK Metcalf because they're basically the same size. He might be an inch and a half smaller, shorter, but the build is the same. So he is very strong, and I love how he catches the ball with his hands. Period.
Right.
And then you got the speed of Devontae Smith. So if you can swap those guys around, and let's not forget, arguably the fastest guy on our receiving core, Quez Watkins. Nobody talks about him enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've got we just have to get the formations to the matchups like we want to. And like I said, we got to have those hot routes because we know Dallas is going to come with it. They're going to be very aggressive, and we have to be able to flip that Aikido move on them, use their momentum against them. And if it's short, take what they give you. I don't want to see any RPOs. I know they're going to run them. I don't want to see any RPOs because number one, it's always putting Jalen at risk, especially now when they sneeze on you, they'll call a concussion on you or something now. But I think the edges are too fast for that. They're too fast. They can make that up. So give the ball to the guys you pay to run the ball. And let them run behind the best offensive line in football. And sometimes I think the Eagles outsmart themselves sometimes, and it's annoying. You always know when the Eagles at least to me, it seems like they don't know what to call because they'll run that stupid wide receiver screen to the left or the right.
Oh, the little bubble out there.
The bubble. I hate that. I
I
hate that
know. I
because
see that a lot.
I hate that. And it's like, but we just got to get our right matchups. And if we run the ball, let the run open up the pass. That's what we got to do.
Exactly. I think you
And
have to
we'll
run.
be fine.
The game's going to be won in the battle of the trenches here. I mean, we have a great defense. A lot of people, duck our defense, like Gallimore, Armstrong. They're a great defensive front four. Even a
Yeah.
front seven. But you got, just like you said, attack Parsons, make him, become a liability out there. Making the wrong move, number one, and you have to have the play calling correct, because if you run the ball and you solidify your run behind this offensive line that you guys have, top 3 in the league, of course, it's going to open up so much, because you're going to have to bring that safety down. And let me ask you real quick, Marcus. I was on the show Wednesday, and I said, you said you don't want a lot of RPOs, but we know as an Eagles, outsider, and you're an Eagles fan, you're going to see it no matter what you do. You're going to see, Hurts get probably 8 to 10 carries. Who knows? We never know with him. But I was saying that there's only going to be one of my persons on the show, not a host, a commenter, said, put Van Der Esch on him. I'm like, what's the score going to be? 90-0 at that point? That's the way it would be. But I said, there's going to be probably one person that's going to play linebacker that's a safety. It's going to be Donovan Wilson. I think you're going to see him more in the box. But do you think if we do that, that's going to expose, Devontae Smith on an Anthony Brown, or, just like you said, A.J. Brown on Diggs? I mean, do you think that's going to expose it? I mean, I can't see anybody else sticking, Jalen Hurts as a spy.
Yes, it will expose them. But the problem is, if they run the RPO, that's what you're there to stop.
Exactly.
So
right.
a lot of times it seems to me like a lot of times the Eagles, we got to run the RPOs. And I'm like, no, we don't have to run the RPOs. There'll be enough time where and this is credit to Jalen Hurts just progressing as a quarterback. There's been enough times where the pocket's crashing and he gets up and he gets out of there.
Sure.
Those are the runs he needs to make. I don't need an RPO because he knows when to run now.
Yes.
So I would rather have them line up, get oh my God, I almost said Donovan McNabb. Get Jalen Hurts under center and let him run play action from under center. I think that's a little bit more effective.
Yeah.
A huge pet peeve of mine is we run so much out of gun formation. And my thing is, as a running back, you cannot get ahead of steam going downhill running sideways. You can't do that. But they love to do it. I'm like, put them in pistol at least. Do something so we're going forward. Let them run behind Mailata or let them run by Lane Johnson, and let's go that way. They always run that stuff east and west, and I can't complain because we're over 4 yards a carry,
right?
So it's hard for me to complain, but that's a gripe with me. And it's easier on the running back to run north and south than it is east and west.
True. I mean, we're going back to, if you want to bring up a name like DeMarco Murray.
Yes.
I think that's a perfect, valid point right there. What he did with Dallas running between our line, north and south. I don't think he ever went east and west. And we came here under the Chip Kelly offense. It was your only direction you're going to go is east and west. And that was not DeMarco Murray. And
the one time they lined him up deep, and he ran the ISO, he went for like 60 in a touchdown. I was like,
that's when you're a fan. You're as yourself as a player. You sit there and at home, like scratching your head, like, how long did it take to understand this philosophy of the game here? But
coaches are hard-headed, man.
It is. It's like, like I said, I coach up here, and my quarterback went down. We went with like a run and shoot, up here we're 5-0, but when my quarterback went down the second game of the season, I had to reevaluate everything. Listen, we're not a run and gun team anymore. You know what? We're a power, blast, ISO, toss team. That's all we are now. So, I mean, you have to scheme better. But talking about this offense, I mean, what one piece is going to be the biggest match for the Cowboys? I think it's Goddard to me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's got to be.
It's going to be Goddard and whoever that forgotten man is going to be. Because against Arizona, A.J. Brown only has 3 catches.
Right.
I think 3 catches out of like 5 targets. And it's like, what are you doing not throwing him the ball in the second half? Are you crazy? How did it get to that point? A couple of weeks before that, A.J. Brown had 11 catches.
Right.
Devontae Smith had none. So we got to get that balance and who's going to be left out. And that's the one situation where everybody's going to forget a Quez Watkins or Devontae hasn't been getting hot or something like that. But to your point on Dallas Goedert, man, Dallas Goedert has been balling. And we got another
Yeah.
one back there. Calcaterra is no
Yeah.
joke either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like the screen game that we're using. We did not have a screen game at all last year.
Mhm.
So I'm happy to see that. And every time we throw in Dallas Goedert the ball, he is moving the sticks. So in my estimation, A.J. Brown is getting all the hype, but Dallas Goedert has been our most productive receiver.
I agree 100% with that. I mean, I agree. I think he's going to be the nightmare out there. I mean, you're gonna key on Smith. You're going to key on A.J. Brown. Your corners, your Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson's going to be playing over the top each side on them because they're scared to get burnt, which is going to leave three players in the middle of the field. Your two linebackers will drop, your strongest safety. Mike, if he doesn't, cover on like a cover two, he's going to step up. But if Goddard can find that soft zone, which he does every time with, having that, that mindset with Hurts to find him, it goes back to like the Tony Romo, Jason Witten days. It's, I know where you're going to be. I can close my eyes. I know you're going to be. And that's the way I see Hurts and Goddard out there right now. I really do.
Yeah. And big, let me say this one thing about Tony Romo.
Uh-oh.
I've always liked Tony Romo because I remember when he got to start, nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted him.
A little kid out of Eastern Illinois, right?
I was like, I'm pulling for that kid. I was like, that was me from a small school. Nobody wanted to give you a shot, but that's.
I'll tell you a little story about Romo. If you look over my shoulder on this side over here, Marcus, that Romo jersey right over there, that was actually his game-worn jersey in Hawaii when I went to the Pro Bowls one year.
Nice.
I was like a little kid in a candy store, a little fat kid in a candy store. Let me tell you, But
nice.
I've always loved Romo for what he stood for the game. He took pay cuts. He did it the right way. A lot of people you couldn't win a playoff game, but listen, man. To me, you put your heart on the field every time, no matter what. But
the only thing he couldn't do was be a good holder.
You had to go there. You had to go back to that Seattle day, didn't you, Marcus? I clearly forgot about that. I mean, it's been years. I got that out of my head, but now I'm not going to be able to sleep. And the worst thing is the Cowboys Eagles game's coming up. Now, I didn't have enough to worry about already, Marcus. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mark. I appreciate that. But all I can say is that was a new ball and it was slippery. Okay, that's the only reason he dropped. That's all I can say. That's all I can say about that. Man. Exactly. But thank you for bringing that up, Marcus. Thank you. But let's talk about your defense here, man. I mean, you guys are set. I mean, you got Baby Hulk in the middle. He barely gets enough playing time, which I don't understand. Your corners, Bradbury, Slay. I don't know. I mean, clearly this is the best defense we played, but what do you do? Cooper Rush, yes, he's 4-1. I talked about it. He's Trent Dilfer. He's managing the game. He's conducting a offense where, hey, don't turn the ball over. Let our defense win this game for you. Keep it close. We can win this game. We can put you in a position to win the game, manage the game. How do you attack Cooper Rush? I mean, last week, 10 balls, 100 yards, no TDs, still won the game by almost 10 points. How do you attack him? How do you attack Cooper Rush?
You attack Cooper Rush the same way you attack everybody else.
Okay,
you got your edges that are coming off. You got Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham coming off the edge. They need to create pressure. All you got to do is get him out of his lane. Make him step up, make him step to the right or step to the left. You got to change those. You got to change those passing angles. Big to your point about Big Jordan Davis, there has not been a center that can handle him yet.
True.
Every center is getting driven off the ball 2 to 3 yards.
True.
You got somebody that big at 6'6". You get him coming up the middle, get them paws up in the air. All that does is that changes his throwing lanes.
Right.
His line of sight is skewed now. So he's either going to step right or step left. If he steps to his right, okay, you got the hatchet man, Hassan Reddick, with 2 strip sacks coming across and getting you. If he steps to the left, you got Brandon Graham that's playing like a man possessed. You're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence coming off an injury. Freaking Brandon Graham is playing like he's a young kid again.
Right.
Just as fast, just as hungry. And them dudes off the edges are making things happen. Then you got Hargrave, Jordan Davis, and let's not forget Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox is still playing good football. Make him step up, get out of his normal lanes where he has to do something that he doesn't want to do. That's what you have to do. You're not going to get to him every time, but if you can make him throw, if you can make him get rid of the ball that half a second earlier, half a second too quick, half a second too late, that's what you need. Get your paws up in the air, get a tip on the ball, or he's got to throw it away because he has to get rid of the ball too soon.
Exactly.
That's how you beat him.
Yep, and the one thing is too, you guys got 2 linebackers now, finally. I can say the
Yes,
Eagles
sir.
have linebackers. You have Edwards, you have Kazir White. I mean, that's a huge upgrade. Yeah, Edwards played great last year, but bringing in Kazir White to manhandle that, linebacker play is something you guys haven't had. Go back from the Trotter days, basically.
Yeah.
Looking at that, I mean, it's this defense is set. I mean, I tell you what, I always called Kellen Moore in the beginning of the season when I first seen him last year running the offense with Dallas. I called
Mhm.
him Wonder Boy. But lately, the way he's been calling the games, with these crazy, whatever he wants to call it there, I call him Dollar Store Boy, to me. But honestly, I mean, the way he plays, I mean, he had the weapons last year. The offense was great. We had a bad defense the year before, but
Right.
you look at the fundamental schemes of it. You have to just put your players in a position to excel what they do best. We know
Right.
Cooper can't get out of the pocket. We know that. It comes down to our offensive line. We're banged up, 3 starters or 3 new starters, but that's not an excuse. Just like you said, next man up. But to me, you have to put him in there. If I'm seeing the Eagles, bring the house, then you know what, you got to have a little hot read out there. You got to get Anthony Brown in the slot, out there saying, hey, this is the hot route here. You're the hot. We got to call that, or slow them down. Be smart. If they're going to bring the house, bring that screen out there. Run a couple screens to get them off balance a little bit. But you don't abandon the run. To me, you cannot abandon the
Yeah.
run. Being the Cowboys,
You
you
can't
cannot.
do that. That's one of the things. That's one of the biggest criticisms of Jonathan Gannon, that he
Hmm.
doesn't bring enough pressure.
Right.
His logic is, he's from the Vic Fangio school.
Hmm.
His logic is, if we can get pressure with our front four, then we don't
Right.
have to bring the linebackers, and the linebackers can do what linebackers are supposed to do.
Hmm.
So, and to your point about TJ Edwards is coming through like a man possessed this year.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
playing like a true Mike linebacker.
Hmm.
That started last year, when he just started coming up and filling, and to your point, we haven't had that since Trot left.
Right. Right.
Kazir White, I've been on the Kazir White bandwagon. One of
I
my
loved him. I loved
earliest
him in San Diego. I loved him how he played out there.
dude, one of the it is amazing that we got 2 players like that.
Hmm.
We got Kazir White. San Diego didn't want to let him go, but they had to let him go.
Hmm.
James Bradbury, Giants didn't want to let him go, but they had
Right.
to let him go. And we got both of them. Kazir White, I was like, yo, this dude led the Chargers in tackles last year.
Hmm.
He is no slouch.
Now,
I was like,
didn't he play a lot of safety off the ball last year too, as
a
well?
little bit,
Okay. Which gives
but
you a better coverage in the deep zone too.
I'm like, listen, we got speed and we got size at linebacker now, and we got legit linebackers. And
Yeah.
the great thing that kind of gets kind of shuffled under is, you know what? Nakobe Dean is just sitting back and just learning. There's no rush to get him in because we solid. I think I don't know if Kazir is going to be with us another year, so somebody's going to be gone, right? So Nakobe Dean should be able to step in and be ready to rock and roll.
Agree.
Our backups are solid all across the board.
That's what I mean. You guys are set. You guys are pretty much plug and play. If you lose a player, just like let's say if Kelsey leaves, well, Landon Dickerson can ready to step into that position. Even
No.
You don't want that?
Cam Jurgens is
Okay,
ready.
I'm sorry.
Now.
Yeah, Cam Jurgens. Exactly. Cam.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Cam. When Kelsey stepped out of the game in Arizona, I was like, I posted this on my site. I was like, I have no worries whatsoever. Cam Jurgens is ready to play right now.
Right.
And
Okay.
we didn't miss a beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, I'm really scared about this game. It's going to tell me a lot. I just hope the Cowboys come out here and play Cowboy football. You can't abandon the run, number one. You have to play. And my thing is this. Tell me if you agree with this, Marcus. I mean, yeah, our defense is good, but the problem is our defense gets gassed really quick.
Yeah.
And if offense can't, I don't want to say score quick. That's the worst thing. If they do, they do. But that's the worst thing possibility for the Cowboys to score fast. Because with this defense that you guys have and offense, you guys are NASCAR on both sides of the ball. We have to move the sticks consistently, not aggressively. Move the sticks. Take that time of possession. Get those 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minute drives. Take the time off the clock to get that defense on the sideline, not breathing for air, like coming in fresh. Because your offense is a nightmare to this defense. Yeah. And if we can't do that, it could be a rout pretty quick, Marcus. I really believe that.
The most important player that's going to be on our squad for Sunday is going to be TJ Edwards, because the Dallas run game is going to be so paramount.
Exactly.
So if we can stuff that run game, that gives us the advantage. And I think again, I like CD Lamb, but I'll take Slay over Lamb, because it's funny, because now ever since that Minnesota game, the way I look at it is, Minnesota was the bar for our secondary. If we can
Mm-hmm.
shut down Justin Jefferson, we can shut down anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So now Hollywood Brown had a good game last week, but CeeDee Lamb ain't Hollywood Brown. So,
True. True.
and we can Bradbury, Slade, we got Avonte Maddox back.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Josiah Scott was still out there, that would have been a problem because he
Right.
looks lost. He's not ready to play yet.
Okay.
And I would have told you, like, if Josiah Scott is in there, that's who you attack. But we got all of our starters in the secondary back, so we're solid back there.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Edwards is going to make the game because he is going to be in charge of stopping that running game.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, going beyond, the perfect play calling out there with Kellen Moore, you can't abandon the run, number one, because you have to set that run up burst for the play action, because you want to bring the Eagles up into the box. You definitely want that to happen. Then it opens up so much more. But the one player that I'm really worried about, Marcus, is Tyler Baez, our center. I don't know how he's going to match up, because not only with Jordan Davis out there, not only with him. I mean, he has to make the right calls. He has to find that Mike linebacker. He has to find the coverage. He has to pinpoint who has who. If you have an extra a blitzer, he has to call that out. And I hope him and Cooper Rush are on the same page, because I know Cooper hasn't really been touched this year, Marcus. But let me tell you, this week, he might have to take that jersey home and wash it a couple times. You know what I mean? Seriously.
Absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. It's almost kind of like a mush rush, but it's not,
Mm-hmm.
because Cox and Hargrave will come through, but it's not like they're coming through blazing speed. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a steady wall that's moving back to you, but
Right.
the edges are where it comes from.
Exactly.
So, and what that does is that collapses that pocket, and you have nowhere to go but backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And as a defense, that's what you want to see.
Exactly. Now, how do you feel about that matchup? I mean, Tyler Smith is he's a great rookie out there. He's holding his own on that left tackle spot. I mean, he's done his own. Of course, when he came out of college, he led the nation in penalties, offsides. False starts out there. But how do you see him? I mean, what's the matchup with him and Brandon Graham on that outside out there? What do you guys see out there?
Well, he got Brandon Graham, and I believe Fletcher Cox is on that side as well. So, he better put his big boy pants on.
Do you think Peter?
BG is somebody. BG is a great player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what people don't realize is BG talks a lot, and BG can get in your head. BG can get in your head.
It's true.
And he's one of those dudes. He's one of those dudes I respect, because in my opinion, he's the defensive version of Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco.
Ooh, that bad?
No, he will talk smack. Yes,
right, that's what I mean.
He will talk smack, but he will back it up.
Right. I still remember some of those things that Chad Ochocinco said, like on the field, but he did back it up. Like he told you where he was going to go. That's where he was going to catch the ball at. So he told you,
If you got the best of him, he would give you your props and on to the next one. But he backed it up. BG is the same way. He'll talk to you all game, but that joker lowers that shoulder, gets low to the ground.
True.
And both him and Hassan Reddick, man, they come across that edge, and they got that thing where they can turn that corner, rip that arm down, and they get just enough. They get that extra inch to knock that ball away, man. They got a knack for doing that.
True. Before we get out of here, we got a couple more minutes. Let me ask you real quick. If I'm the Cowboys and I'm Dan Quinn out there, and of course, you watch all sports out there, no matter what team it is. How do I attack this Eagles front line? Do I blitz you? Do I stunt you? Do I twist you? What do I do?
Oh, how do you attack the Eagles offensive line, you mean?
Yeah. Because I think the Cardinals showed a little bit in the second half last week of what to do. So I hope there's a little blueprint out there of, we can basically go with that game plan, but, let Gannon or let Sirianni change that offensive scheme a little bit. But till he does, let's attack it.
I think you just, you attack and you test the wall. You find the weak spot on the wall. With some of those twists, some of those delayed twists that Parsons do, you try it all and you see what works. He might just blast through Lane Johnson. I don't see that happening, but you never know till you try.
Right.
I'm sure Parsons is going to be in almost every technique down in and out of that defensive line, and you're looking for the weak spot, and just keep at it. He's going to get through at some point in time, and that's where it depends on. That's when you see Jalen at his best. Because he's not just running out of there now. He can beat you with his arm, and he can beat you with his legs, getting out of there and getting out of trouble. So,
gotcha.
The best way to attack him is, I would say do the stunts. He's got that one delayed stunt where he comes in
Mhm.
the guard center gap, and again, he's fast enough to make it. So you just have to be aware. And eventually, they're gonna catch the Eagles sleeping one time.
Yeah, no, he's done that twice off of Gallimore's, of his bull rush, and Parsons just comes on a delayed start right off Gallimore, and it
Yeah, yeah,
seems to
yeah.
open because it's like you said, it's delayed,
I think
and
he had
that's
2 sacks versus the Chargers like that.
exactly right off the Gallimore's, right off his hindside. Once he pulls the double team like a little chip block, Parsons
Yeah.
just finds he's smart enough to go left to right to see that where the shed blocker's at. That's how smart he is. But what I wanted to ask you real quick, I just actually got a blank thought in my head real quick, but before we get into final predictions, let me ask you this real quick. I mean, how far do you see the Eagles going this year? Oh, let's put it this way: what do you feel is a win situation, and how far do you think it actually go?
I I don't look at it that way.
Okay.
Right. I look at the Eagles right now. They are in a position. They are in the prime position
Hmm.
to win the division and get to the playoffs.
Okay.
Before the season had started, everybody was talking about how did the Eagles look, and I would say, based on everything that Howie Roseman had done in the offseason, all the acquisitions and signings and stuff like that, I was adamant. The Eagles have the better team. Dallas has the better quarterback. I don't
Hmm.
feel that way anymore.
Right. No.
I
No.
feel
Right.
like Jalen Hurts has, if Jalen dominates this game, he will have cemented himself as
Hmm.
the Eagles QB1 franchise.
Right.
Period. There's no more
Agree.
question marks.
Agree.
I think they are in the prime position to make it to the playoffs. Once you make it to the playoffs, you just get there first.
Okay. I like that.
And then once you get there, then you see what you can do. Because there's a lot of great quarterbacks that get to the playoffs and you can't do nothing with them. So I take it game by game, week by week. So I think we're in the prime position and we are a good enough team to win our division and make it to the playoffs. That's where I stop. Everything else after that, we'll see what happens. Because in my estimation, usually the healthiest team will
True.
go far in the
True.
playoffs. So we could be saying this and he could be MVP. And Lord knows the Eagles, you just go back and look a couple years what happened to Wentz. He
Mm,
was going to win the MVP and then he gets hurt.
right.
So all it takes is one play. So if we stay healthy, I believe we can go far in the playoffs. But as for right now, let's just worry about get 6-0.
I like how you said that because I'm a firm believer week to week. Barring injuries, you never know
Exactly.
next man up, scheme wise, whatever. And to me, it's like just like you said, with the injuries week to week, not knowing what you have. Like, look at honestly, Marcus, on my first show this season, I said, the only person we lost was Cooper. I'm sorry, Amari Cooper. Of course, we lost him. We lost Liddell Collins. Cedric Wilson going to the Dolphins, of course, and Connor Williams going to the Dolphins as well, or Cincinnati. I'm sorry. And to me, it was just like, okay, well, we can solidify the offensive line. We got, Tyler Smith coming in. We're okay. We're banged up, but we're okay. We're okay. We can scheme the game to win the game, pretty much.
Right.
But then when you lost Dak, then you lost, Tyron Smith, two staple points of our offense. At that point right there, week one, I said, okay, we held our own against, Tampa Bay. Dak didn't look great. That can change to week to week. But
Right.
after that, losing those players, I actually said on my show, I was like, you know what? We have a possibility going 1-4 here, possibly
Mm-hmm.
1-5 going into this Eagles game. And the only clear win I had was Washington. I thought about it. I was like, maybe we can beat them. But to me, it's just like you said, week to week, you never know. You scheme right, you play right, you manage the game. Anything can happen. I mean, right where we're sitting at 4-1, playing the Eagles, of course, 5-0 here, division leaders, this rivalry week. To me, it's going to be a measuring stick of what we are, who
Right.
we are. Right now, I'm a firm believer. Like, you know what? If we keep managing the game, because we've already played our brunt of the schedule right now, our back end is pretty easy. So we've already managed it pretty much like a storm. I mean, right now, Rams, then you guys coming off that week. But the last question I want to ask for you: how do you feel that the Dallas Cowboys will change with Dak coming back next week? Will the scheme change
Mm,
with Cooper Rush being more vanilla than opening up the playbook with Dak, or what would you do if you're the head coach? Cooper's 4-1. Let's just say if we beat your Eagles next week on Sunday, and Cooper's 5-1 sitting tied in division with the advantage tiebreaker, but Dak's healthy. What do you bring him back? I always believe go in the hot hand because Cooper Rush has the trust and the acclamation of the locker room right now. He
who do
has
you
that.
guys who do you guys have next week?
I believe it's Jacksonville, or I think it's Jacksonville if I'm not mistaken. I can look it up real quick for you.
I would wait to make that decision to see what you're facing.
Yeah.
If the team you're facing, if it's Jacksonville or whoever, if they're healthy,
It's
and
the Lions, Marcus. Lions.
okay, the Lion. Well, the Lions have been losing, but the Lions are a good team, man.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
ultimately,
mhm,
what it comes down to, in my opinion, if you can rest them and get them that extra week when you hit the break,
mhm.
give them that extra week.
Okay.
Because right now you're playing with house money. You didn't expect
True.
Cooper Rush to
True.
do what he's doing. You're
True.
playing with house money.
Hmm.
So regardless of what happens this week, if your opponent next week is all banged up
Hmm.
and you think your defense can take advantage of it and you can get another win out of it, stick with Cooper Rush. Give Dak that extra week of healing, so that way when he comes back, there is no misunderstanding. There's
Agree.
no he came back early, or because as soon as he comes in, everybody's coming to slap that ball out of his hand. Everybody's coming out, and he's got to
Yes,
be ready for that. So if an extra week, if you rush him back too early, what's the point?
I
If,
agree.
if you if you come back in and beat Jacksonville or whoever that game is, and then he's hurt going into the break, you haven't really gained any ground. So,
Exactly. I agree.
because again, back to my other point, the healthiest teams are the ones that go far in the playoffs. So
True.
you want him healthy for that fourth leg of the relay,
Hmm.
and it's amazing that we're even at the halfway point now.
Exactly. Right. Right.
So don't get overzealous. Look at the situation, uh, how it is, and make a common sense judgment. You know,
Okay.
if you get a chance, go down there and smack Jerry Jones to get him off that broken record of a spin the ball. I don't know where that came from.
I don't either. Honestly, Marcus, there's times where I'm sitting here. I lived in Philadelphia for 30 years and sitting up near Pittsburgh. I can't listen to him speak ever. I mean, when he comes
Oh my
takes the
god,
podium, I just have to turn it off and you
it is
know,
all ego now. It
it
is all
is.
ego, and it's at that point where like all old people do, like he's not making a lot of sense.
He's not. I mean, there was a point where, like going back to the Johnny Manziel situation back in the day, where he wanted to take him in the first round, and his son was rumored saying, "No, don't take him." Basically, there was a joke where Stephen Jones said he had to lock his dad in the closet right there before he took Johnny Manziel. And to
Mhm.
me, I think we'd be better off, so much better with, even though he's a Jones, even Stephen Jones. I mean, he's the one that's been drafting, and look what he's got in the last 4 years, 5 years,
Yes.
solidifying what we've done. But before we get out here, is there anything else you want to say or anything out to the viewers where they can find, plug yourself again? Once again, please do that as well.
Yeah, check me out on Pro Fan Talk
Mhm.
every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on A2D Radio. YouTube.com/A2D Radio. And
Gotcha.
you can check out my YouTube channel, Pro Fan Talk. I'm just getting that started, so there's not a lot of content. But basically, I'm just riffing on things that happen during the week, during the league.
Mhm.
I usually put some stuff up when I'm watching the game.
Okay.
My thoughts pregame, my thoughts halftime, stuff like that. I'm trying to get other content, but I work, so I'm busy.
100%.
So I'll get it in where I can fit it in, man. So other
I
than
hear
that,
that. I
you
hear
know,
that. Hey, Marcus, but listen, man. Listen, before we get out of here, how about we do some final predictions for this game?
sure.
Let's do it. I mean, yeah, I'm probably going to come out here and sound like a homer, but I believe here. I really
Supposed
do.
to.
You have to. You have to rep your team. But truthfully, I think the Eagles come out with a victory. But since you're the guest here, I'll let you go first.
I got the Eagles coming out ahead, 31-21.
Okay, so you don't think it's going to be a blowout as well, right?
If you call that a blowout, um, I'm looking for a close
Okay.
offensive game,
Hmm.
but I think our defense is going to come up big.
Okay. I got it close. I mean, I think it's going to be, one in the trenches here who has a better scheme. The advantages have to be taken away. I'm going to go very close game. I'm going to say 21-20, 21-24 Cowboys.
Okay.
I think we might be able to do it, but to me, this game right now, I mean, it's a 6-point advantage, but I think it's going to be a toss up right now. I really do. With records being thrown out, that don't mean a thing with the Eagles Cowboys ever. Especially in
Yeah.
the MCs. I don't look at records, who you are, what you are, but I think it's going to be a good
Well,
game.
let me say this.
Mhm.
If the Eagles tackle like they tackled against Arizona,
That's what I'm hoping for, Marcus.
we gonna get Zeke and Pollard gonna run all over us.
That's what
But
I'm hoping for.
our tackling was hot garbage last week.
Yeah, there was no fundamental football in that second half. Let me tell you, nothing at
Nope.
all, nothing.
Nope.
But uh, Marcus, before we get out of here, real quick, I'm just going to go over our shows real quick on the network, real quick. Take
Sure.
a little time to do that, real quick. Everybody on the, our shows are out there every Monday. Excuse me, Mondays we're off. Tuesday we have Fight Club 215. In a couple weeks we'll be having the 10th ranked boxer of the world welterweight division, Trayshawn Wiggins, joining us again. That's every Tuesday at 10 p.m. The Batcave 10 a.m. on Wednesday mornings. Ken Fry, the Batcave, talking New York Mets. That big downfall out there, what happened to them. Wednesday night we have College Football Frenzy. Marcus, we would love to have you on that show one time since you played college as well.
Sure.
It's on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Of course, 215 usually is on every Wednesday at 9:30 with myself, Matt, and Dave. Thursday nights we have an Eagle podcast 4-4 locker room with Mike Loro, talking Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, Phillies. Right before the show, of course, you had the Big Blue Power Hour with Evan, Dan, and Stacy talking New York Giants. Tomorrow morning, we have Out of the Ring Wrestling at 7:30 with Joey and Dave. Saturday night, we have Vegas Rob and Ken Fry talking all Vegas sports, Raiders action out there as well. So, listen, for myself, Paul Spencer from the 215 Boys, and of course, my special guest, Marcus, legendary Marcus, College Football Hall of Fame. In the next couple of years, I guarantee we're pulling for you, Marcus, of course, to finally
Appreciate
get in there. And listen, man, host of the Pro Fan Talk out there on YouTube /A2D Radio. We're going to put that in our link as well, Marcus. But,
Sweet.
Marcus, what's that?
Sweet.
I definitely appreciate you jumping on. We're going to put that on there for you. But Marcus, thank you for popping on, man. We'd love to have you. Please be a family member. Come here all the time. We appreciate it. And you're more than welcome here anytime, brother. I appreciate you hopping on.
You got it, man.
All right. For 215 Boys, we'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Have a great night. Go Cowboys.